The SRX makes his return for the 2022 season at Five Flags Speedway, and we see Helio Castroneves pick up his first victory of the SRX season. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the season over for the SRX at Five Flags Speedway. Let's go ahead and talk about the race. So, let's start off with the heat races. So, really in heat number one, the front row would be Paul Tracy and Bubba Pollard, and the race would really come down between those guys. Tony Kanaan was really quick in heat number one as well, but Bubba Pollard got around him. There was only one caution in the race, and was for the fun flag that came out. The fun flag, once again, was back. Remember how they basically set the points up pretty much. It was basically a 12-minute heat. Basically, Bubba Pollard would go on and win heat number one. Then they would reset the field, and everyone that started in the back would go, who was finishing the back, including Ernie Francis Jr., would start in the front, while basically everyone that started up front would go to the back of the field on the next restart. So the restart basically Ernie Francis Jr. and I believe Michael Waltrip as well, if I'm not mistaken, and also I believe another driver, Helio Castroneves. Basically, Ernie Francis Jr. gets a restart and basically jumps high after all the damage, and he drops out of the race. Julio Castroneves, they have to throw the fun flag. Julio Castroneves would basically end up winning the second heat of the race. Michael Waltrip was pretty much right behind him, trying to catch him, was never able to catch him. They basically had Bubba Pollard trying to get through the field, and he got up to 7th. And because of the fact that Bubba Pollard got up to 7th and Tony Kanaan got up to 6th, they both start on the front row in the final race. So, of course, the race being a 75-lap race, there will be a couple cautions in the race as well, but really it'll be somewhat of a clean race. So let's jump into the main. So they had to actually late start the race a little bit because of basically the pace car caught on fire. Because one of the big issues at Five Flags in this race was basically of the really hot and really big heat. Drivers were really complaining about it, including Helio Castroneves as well. He was complaining about the heat, and all the drivers were complaining about the heat as well in this race. But you had Gray Biffle also saying when he was being interviewed that basically said this is what we signed up for. So at the start of the race, you would basically have Bubba Pollard on the inside, and on the outside, Tony Kanaan. Bubba Pollard would get an amazing start of the race on the outside, and Ryan Newman would fall in pursuit. Ryan Newman would get around Bubba Pollard and actually pass him for the lead for a little bit, and then Bubba Pollard got back around him. Eventually, Tony Kanaan passed them and started actually pulling away, and basically they threw the fun flag a few laps later after all these guys were battling really hard. Then Bubba Pollard, who was actually dominating early portion, he would have to actually come down pit road because of the flat tire and have to get the tires changed. Now, he would not be out of the race completely, but he would drop out of contention for a little bit. And then the race for the next half would come down between Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves. Tony Kanaan actually dominated the portion of this race, really up to around 37 or 36 laps to go. Castroneves was right behind him, but then eventually Tony Kanaan really started pulling away. Meanwhile, Bubba Pollard would come down pit road as a local legend in this race. He drove in all the way up to around 6th or 7th before they threw the caution. Then we went back racing for a little bit with Helio Castroneves getting a lead for a second. And then Tony Kanaan got back around him and started pulling away. And then the final caution in the race would throw another caution, and they throw one more caution for a restart with around 20 laps to go. It would come down between Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan on the restart. Julio would get a really strong restart and start pulling away. Meanwhile, Bubba Pollard, who already driven up to 4th, he made some really aggressive moves and started battling. The battle for second would start heating up between Bubba Pollard, Ryan Newman, and Tony Kanaan. Kanaan's car really starting to go away, while Ryan Newman's and Bubba Pollard's car really starting to come in as well. Eventually, Bubba Pollard throws a really big 3-wide move with around 5 or 6 laps to go in this race. They both go up the track, and they all basically go 3 wide. Eventually, Tony Kanaan gets passed by Ryan Newman and Bubba Pollard, and it becomes a battle for second between Bubba Pollard and Ryan Newman. Coming to 2 laps to go, Bubba Pollard would get around Ryan Newman and try to catch Helio Castroneves. They were catching Castroneves, even being side by side, but it would not be enough. And coming off the corner, Helio Castroneves, who wasn't even supposed to be in this race to begin with, comes off the final corner and picks up his first ever SRX victory and wins the SRX opener at Five Flags Speedway. Let's talk about something for a second. Helio Castroneves, like I mentioned, was not even supposed to be in this race literally about 13 or 14 hours ago and got added at the last minute. Second thing, Helio Castroneves had an incredible career resurgence. In the last year or two, he's won the Indianapolis 500, he's won the 24 Hours Daytona, and now has won an SRX race, and we're going to talk about him later this week, because he may be running in NASCAR at the Daytona 500 potentially at some point. Trackhouse, give a call to this guy. But Let's not go through the results now. First thing, Helio Castroneves, do I think he had the best car? No, but the cars are really, really close together, and Castroneves kept himself in there the whole entire race. It really helped that he had a really good second heat that really helped him, but it's good to see Castroneves get the victory. I'm really happy Helio won. He, of course, climbed the fence after winning, which is something you absolutely love to see. So now let's go through the results of my race and give you my score of tonight's race and the broadcast as well. So Helio Castroneves picks up the victory. Bubba Pollard finished is his second. I think Bubba Pollard had a better car than Helio Castroneves, but he had a really hard time getting by Ryan Newman. I think Bubba with the fresher tires had the best car really near the end of that race. Unfortunately, due to what he had, it happened early in the race with the flat tire. It really took him out of contention, but Bubba Pollard did Pensacola really, really proud. He had a really strong chance of winning. He probably was the best car, but it is what it is. But hey, may Bubba Pollard come race a NASCAR race in the future, man. You're an absolute legend, and congratulations on finishing second. Ryan Newman finished his third. For Ryan Newman's first SRX race, he did absolutely incredible tonight. Ryan Newman was in the top 5 pretty much all race long. That 39 looked great. I think Ryan Newman's going to have a shot of dethroning Tony Stewart in the championship this whole entire season because he's running the whole entire season. And I think he's got a really good shot at getting it done. Newman was quick tonight. He finishes third. Tony Kanaan finishes fourth. Kanaan, I believe, led the most laps in this race, and Kanaan had probably the second best car, but unfortunately the tires really fell off near the end of the race and had a really horrendous restart that took him out of contention, but he still finishes a really strong fourth place finish. Great run from Tony Kanaan. Still knows how to get it done, even though he's basically near getting up there in age. He still knows how to get it done. Bobby Labonte finishes fifth. Bobby Labonte, I noticed, especially near the early portion of the race, he was actually really fast on the long run. His car was really, really good, and he finished his fifth. Labonte's also got a shot to win this championship this year as well. Don't be surprised if he wins one of these SRX races this year, but he gets a really strong fifth-place finish. Greg Biffle finished the sixth. How about that for Greg Biffle? Considering Greg Biffle basically was really never a factor all night long, for him to finish sixth is really great to see. He was never, like I said, really never a factor except in the heat races, but I think Biffle will be a factor in the rest of these races. He finished in sixth. Marco Andretti finished seventh. Marco Andretti really struggled in tonight's race. Never was really a factor, but he does get a top half finish basically at this point and finishes in seventh. Ryan Hunter-Reay finished safe. Ryan Hunter-Reay was way better in the heats than he was in the actual race. Hunter-Reay had a really strong first. He was up to third or fourth, but I think he used his tires up and never was able to really recover. But it's great to have Ryan Hunter-Reay in the series regardless in the SRX. I think he'll be somewhat of a threat in some of these races as well. He's running full-time as well, so he finishes in eighth. Bill Elliott finished his ninth. At least Bill Elliott was actually somewhat competitive in this race, except that national race last year. He was never really a factor in any other races last year, so for Bill Elliott to finish ninth is really, really awesome. Tony Stewart finished the 10th. Tony Stewart never was a factor in this race. I think he was in the top 5 at one point, but shockingly, Tony Stewart was not a really major factor in this race. He really didn't lead a lot of this race tonight. I don't think he led at all, which is kind of a surprise, considering I think he led at some point in every single race last year, including the heat races. So massive disappointment for Tony Stewart finishing in 10th as he tries to defend his championship in the SRX. Ernie Francis Jr. finished 11th. Ernie Francis Jr. had a really, really frustrating night, to say at the least. He had multiple laps down and basically fell out of the race, but he bounces back at least to finish 11th. Not a good run, but still he finished 11th. Paul Tracy finished 12th. Paul Tracy was really, really quick in heat number 1, but after that kind of fell back. He started getting aggressive with guys like Michael Waltrip and Bill Elliott near the end, but he finished in 12th. And finishing last in 13th place is Michael Waltrip, who is not on the broadcast booth for the truck race tonight, which currently is going on as we speak. So now let's talk about the overall race as a whole and talk about the broadcast as a whole as well. First thing, let's talk about the broadcast. So, of course, this is on CBS. You had Alan Bestwick and Connor Daly in the booth, Lindsey Czarniak, Willie T. Ribbs, and Matt Yoka. I will say this is not the best SRX broadcast I've seen so far, but I'm going to cut them a little bit of slack because this is their first race back in nearly a year, and I think they're still getting some things kinked out for their second year. They had a couple technical difficulties, but once they got those technical difficulties really sorted out, they really put on a really, really strong show. Connor Daly, I've never heard do any sort of commentary before. I don't know if he's ever done commentary in the world of the past. That guy did absolutely an incredible job. He brought some jokes in there, but he's also taking it very, very seriously and had a really fun time in there. Alan Bestwick, of course, doing the best he can like he always does. And Alan Bestwick, please come back to NASCAR at some point because you were absolutely incredible. Willie T. Ribbs, I think, did a really good job tonight as well. Willie T. Ribbs, who got out of the driver's seat from last year and did work in the pit road side of things, I think he did a really solid job. Lindsey Czarniak did her best, and Matt Yoakum did a really strong job. It's unfortunate what happened with the technical difficulties, but it is what it is. Now jumping into the race. This track put on a really good show. First 25-30 laps was absolutely amazing in the main race. It was great racing overall in the first half. Second half, there wasn't as good of racing. It kind of got a little bit spread out, but it still was a really solid race overall. I'm going to give tonight's race an 8 out of 10. I wanted a little bit more action in the middle portion race because the ending was great and the beginning was great, but the middle was what I kind of was missing a little bit. But I still thought tonight's race is really, really good. For the SRX returning, they really never left. I really enjoyed that, and I'm going to give tonight's race overall an 8 out of 10. So, anyway, that is it for tonight's race review from the SRX. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications so you notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on pages on the list. Get you below over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about the opening race in the SRX? Let me know below. Let me know your score in the comments below. And congratulate Helio Castroneves on winning the SRX race at 5 Flags. Let me know in the comments below. There will be no truck race review tonight from the race at Knoxville, and there will also be tomorrow an F1 review from the Canadian GP. I will from time to time not have reviews from these series going forward, and on Monday we'll have a NASCAR news video as well, catching up on some things, including the Helio Castroneves news that we'll get into. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content like the SRX and F1 on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.